The top stories tonight in Y News. A U.S. intelligence report shows the grim view of the world's future.
The Department of Health reminds medical suppliers to regulate the sale of oxygen tanks.
An employers group says that business confidence in the Philippines may decrease in the coming months. UNTV News online survey shows Filipinos prefer to receive COVID-19 vaccines rather than taking the anti-parasitic drug Ivermectin.
Know why Filipinos remember the fall of Bataan as the Day of Valor.
And Beijing, China overtakes New York as the world's billionaire capital. Good evening, Philippines and the world. We are now reporting live from Quezon Avenue in Quezon City. Today is Friday, April 9, 2021. I am Jorlene Delgado.
Join us in the next hour as we deliver today's top stories around the country and in other parts of the world. I'm Angelo Castro III.
We are also seen in 1,935 satellite monitoring centers nationwide and via live streaming worldwide with the UNTV News and Rescue social media accounts and our website, untvweb.com. I am William Theo.
First in the news. The world will face more struggles in the future as U.S. intelligence officials issued a survey to where the world may end up in the year of 2040. Mariela Toza reports.
The National Intelligence Council wrote in its Global Trends 2040 report that diseases, climate change, and the growing inequality gap between the rich and the poor all threaten global security and present widespread strains on states and societies. The report emphasized the climate crisis as an urgent matter, stating that the physical effects of climate change are likely to intensify within the next 2 decades, bringing more extreme storms, droughts, and floods, and causing glaciers and ice caps to melt. The growing economic gaps could also tear societies apart, as the inequality within countries often coincide with declining trust and heightened public dissatisfaction with the government. With the increasing availability of internet access to many populations, the general public now have the ability to participate in politics, which could lead to instability. The report further adds that even in strong democratic countries and based on the rise in public protests in the past decade, people are likely to turn to boycotts, civil disobedience, and even violence. This year saw the coronavirus as a huge factor in making the other dangers worse, creating new uncertainties about the economy, governance, geopolitics, and technology. Killing almost 3 million people, the pandemic further highlighted global health issues and vast discrepancies in healthcare access and has interrupted efforts to combat other diseases. The reports produced every 4 years are designed to help policymakers and citizens anticipate the economic, environmental, technological, and demographic forces likely to shape the world through the next 20 years. Mariela Toza, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
The issue on mandatory vaccinations has resurfaced after the European Court of Human Rights ruled for the first time that compulsory jabs would not contravene human rights law. But in the Philippines, it is highly impossible to implement such kind of health policy, according to law experts. Nel Maribohok explains why.
The European Court of Human Rights has recently ruled on the issue of compulsory vaccinations. The court in its landmark ruling backs the health policy of the Czech Republic to implement mandatory preschool vaccinations to children. The decision came after the evaluation of a complaint brought to court by a Czech man after being fined for refusing to have his children vaccinated against tetanus, hepatitis B, and polio. According to ECHR, the measure could be regarded as being necessary in a democratic society. Also, the court ruled that Czech health policy was not in violation of European Convention on Human Rights. Some experts believe that it could play a role in efforts to end the coronavirus pandemic, although the ruling did not deal directly with COVID-19 vaccines. But according to Attorney Gilbert Andres of Center of International Law, it is impossible to implement that kind of health policy in the Philippines. Mandatory jabs, he said, will violate the Constitution.
Let's just say it's a bodily intrusion. So it affects the bodily system. And if it affects the bodily system, the person should have the right of liberty to accept or not. So it's a constitutional right, yung right to liberty. Secondly, it's a patient's right. Ang counter-argument dyan is the common good.
Yes.
Pero the common good can be protected by the safety protocols that are in place. So hindi siya pwedeng i-criminalize.
Also, pamantasan ng lungsod ng Maynila College of Law Dean Attorney George Erwin Garcia has the same position on the matter. According to him, it surely violates the freedom of expression guaranteed by the Constitution. He also said that the right to be vaccinated carries with it the corresponding right to refuse vaccination. Meanwhile, presidential spokesman Harry Roque in his text message said the mandatory vaccinations has not been tackled yet by the government. Nel Maribuhok, UNTV News and Rescue, we serve the people, we give glory to God.
Meanwhile, the Manila city government has started administering the China-made Sinovac COVID-19 vaccines to its senior citizens. This is ahead of its implementation set by the National Task Force Against COVID-19 on April 12. Asher Kadapan Jr. tells us why.
The Food and Drug Administration confirmed that Sinovac vaccines are already allowed to be used for senior citizens. The National Task Force Against COVID-19 scheduled its implementation starting April 12. While other local government units are still awaiting the guidelines from the Department of Health, Mayor Francisco Isko Moreno Dumagoso immediately announced its implementation yesterday.
We were informed by members of the IATF that ang Sinovac now allowed for senior citizen. The FDA is allowing the use of Sinovac on senior citizen. Vaccination should be preceded by an evaluation of a person's health status and exposure risk to assure that benefits of vaccination outweigh risks. Ayun mga kababayan. Mga lolo, pumunta na kayo doon sa 20 vaccination site natin.
Based on the record of Manila City Government, over 5,600 senior citizens received their first dose of Sinovac vaccines. These were conducted in several vaccination sites in the city, while others were vaccinated in their respective residences, especially those who are bedridden. All they need to do is sign a waiver confirming their voluntary vaccination and present their quick response or QR code identification, which they may obtain through online registration. Individuals who don't have access online may be assisted by relatives or LGU personnel. Senior citizens, on the other hand, expressed their gratitude to the prompt vaccination rollout of the Manila City Government.
Mayor, magandang umaga po. Ako po si Marta Nayo, taga 841, Bagong Barangay. Na bakunahan na po ako. Marami pong salamat sa inyo.
Asher Kadapan Jr., UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
The Philippines' single-day death toll due to COVID-19 has reached an all-time high of 401 today, bringing the country's death toll to 14,520. This has surpassed the previous record of 382 deaths on April 6, 2021. Based on the DOH data, the Philippines recorded 12,225 new COVID-19 cases, pushing the country's total tally to 840,554. The DOH said that 178,351 were active cases. The number of recoveries also climbed to 647,683, after 946 more patients recovered from the viral respiratory disease. The DOH said 10 laboratories were not able to submit their data to the COVID-19 document repository system on Thursday, April 8.
The country is now experiencing a shortage of oxygen tanks amid the resurgence in the number of COVID-19 cases. The Department of Health, meanwhile, reminded suppliers to regulate its sales. Janice Inhente reports why.
NC Tobias quickly went to Bambang, Manila to buy an oxygen tank. She wanted to stock it in her home for emergency purposes, but she was disappointed that it's out of stock already.
Wala daw silang stock, pang-reserve lang sa bahay. Just in case, kasi may mga friend ako na parang nagka-pneumonia tapos na out of breath, bumaba yung oxygen level. So baka mangyari sa amin. So nag-standby ako ng oxygen. Oo, hindi siya na-admit eh. So sa bahay lang siya. So nag-oxygen lang siya. So okay na siya ngayon eh. So naisip ko na baka pwede rin sa amin just in case.
Robbie Pabiantes was lucky to buy an oxygen tank for his brother-in-law, who is suffering from asthma. They just want to be ready in case they would need it, as most hospitals in the metro are in full capacity.
Bumili po kami nito kasi hinihika po yung may-ari. Hinihika po kayo siya kaya gano'n. Bumili kami ng tangke.
A medical supplier in Manila said they are also running out of oxygen tanks due to the high demand.
Nagkakaira pa lang naman ng ubos ng tangke dahil nagpapanik ka, hindi nagtatanggap sa ospital ng pasyente. Ngayon, palit tangke lang ginagawa namin.
Magkakaubusan talaga ng supply. Pati mga supplier ma'am, nawawalan din po ng stock. Kaya po tumaas lalo. Tsaka usually ma'am, yung mga bumibili dito, more on nagtatrabaho sa hospital. Mayroon ma'am, konti lang naman yung bumibili na pang personal lang.
Ngayon kasi ma'am, hindi kami nakakabenta kasi wala pong mga deliver. Yung refill naman, konti din lang ang binababa sa amin sa talak galing sa planta. Konti din lang ang binababa kaya pagbaba niya, ubos din kagad.
With the high demand, prices of oxygen also went up. In addition to oxygen tanks, their oxygen concentrator and regulator are also running out stock. Meanwhile, according to some experts, it is not bad to store a personal oxygen tank, but reminding the public not to just use it without the supervision of medical experts.
Maybe for those patients with comorbidities, I would say it's probably not a bad idea. At least kung meron silang some kind of recourse within the home, kung kailangan man natin silang abisuhan na pumunta na sa ospital, hindi sila nagmamadali ng sobra-sobra.
Meron naman talagang nag-home oxygen therapy, di ba? Mga may chronic lung disease. Kaya lang, paalala lang sa mga tao, hindi ito madaling gamitin. There are safety issues, there are dangers. So kung mag-oxygen sa bahay, please, out of desperation, do it under medical supervision. Make sure someone is teaching you and supervising how you should use it.
The DOH reminded suppliers to regulate the sale of oxygen tanks because hospitals might run out of supply.
Baka makasama pa to sa inyo kaysa yung nakakabuti, no? Kasi too much oxygen also that we take when we are at that normal or stable condition might also affect our breathing process and yung iba nating ginagawa. Pangalawa, baka naman po yung pong supply ng ospital ay na madedeplete kasi lahat na po ng ating mga households ay bumibili ng oxygen tanks.
Janice Inhente, UNTV, News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
An employers group says business confidence in the country may decrease in the coming months. Ray Pelayo will tell us why.
Based on a business survey from around 1,500 firms in the country, the confidence index has increased by almost 7%. The survey conducted on February 4 to March 12, 2021 said that it will be more upbeat in the next 12 months. The business optimism attributes to the easing of quarantine restrictions, observations that people are adapting to the new normal, increase in volume of sales and orders, the rollout of vaccine for COVID-19, and the development of new business marketing strategies. But ECO President and Philippine Chamber of Commerce Honorary Chairman Sergio Luis Ortiz Jr. said the result of the survey was outdated because of the reimposition of the enhanced community quarantine in the NCR Plus bubble. Ortiz noted that prior to the strict quarantine measures, they were able to convince more enterprises to continue their operation but decided to shut down considering the problem on vaccination program.
Nung in-announce na mayroong suggestion noon na 2 weeks lockdown, nako nag-atrasa na yung ano. At yung mga yun hindi mo na makukumbinsi pa uli ngayon after this. So talaga medyo mababawasan yung confidence level ng business because of what happened.
The group also favors the implementation of localized lockdown to minimize the effect of the pandemic on the economy. Ortiz emphasized the importance of additional isolation facilities, especially on the part of LGUs, and the suspension of Data Privacy Act related to the COVID-19 contact tracing. This will minimize the expense of contact tracers.
Kung sinuspend nila yung Data Privacy Act sa COVID, hindi mo na kailangan i-contact trace. Lalabas yung tao, provided meron silang pupuntahang disente.
The group projects that economic recovery cannot be attainable this year, especially the tourism sector.
Yung iba, kagaya ng mga ibang industries like yung tourism, hotels, restaurant, nako, malabo sa 23 makabawi yung mga yan. Yung nagbebenta na, nagsasaran dahil nakikita nila, hindi na kayang tustusan yung operation nila.
Ortiz said the industries like in agriculture and mining should be supported because their operation will continue amid the pandemic. Ray Pelayo, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people. We give glory to God.
For those watching our 24/7 live streaming on YouTube, please click the subscribe button you see on your screen and ring the bell for notification. You may also follow us on Facebook. A research show that Filipinos seem to be more interested with searching for COVID-19 treatments online than vaccination registration. Meanwhile, a doctor advises the public not to self-medicate in treating COVID-19, adding that people should listen to medical experts and science. Harleen Delgado will tell us why.
Interest on potential COVID-19 treatments such as the anti-parasitic drug Ivermectin has grown among Filipinos. Attest to this is a research of MetaSearch website iPrice Group, which suggests that Filipinos seem to be more interested in searching for remedies than getting vaccinated. The group examined online searches of Filipinos on Google for keywords Ivermectin, oxygen tank, and vaccine registrations. For the month of March, Google searches on keywords vaccine registration got only 1,430, which is 157 times lower than the results for the keyword Ivermectin, which garnered over 244,000. This as the country sees a surge in COVID-19 cases, with hospitals reaching full capacity. The group is predicting an upward trend of people's interest in the unapproved drug and oxygen tanks for this month, which the group says is alarming. The research noted that the data shows the problematic state of the country, as most of the population needs to be inoculated to achieve herd immunity. But for the Department of Health, the data are not compatible.
I think Filipinos now are searching Ivermectin because there's a lot of noise, there are opposing views, and they would want to get more information. With regard to vaccine registration, hindi siya siguro comparable dito sa searching for Ivermectin, And if you try to look at some of the practices, hindi na sila pumapasok sa registration, dumidiretso sila doon sa vaccination site.
Dr. Maricar Blanco Limpin of the Philippine College of Physicians appeals to the public not to self-medicate. She reminds COVID-19 patients to consult doctors first for proper prescription and treating symptoms.
Drug interaction. So nagkakaroon ng interaction sa bawat gamot, sa bawat isa. So yan po ay maaaring magdulot ng mas masamang epekto kaysa doon sa kinatatakutan natin. I am sorry to say this, but definitely lahat ng gamot merong mga side effects. This includes ivermectin, especially for ivermectin. Wala ako kasing do-it-yourself na treatment for COVID-19.
Dr. Blanco Limpin also advises the public to wait for studies first, showing evidence of ivermectin's safety and efficacy, listen to medical experts, and be critical in searching information. Horadine Delgado, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
The Food and Drug Administration clarifies that approving a hospital's request for a compassionate special permit to use ivermectin is not a guarantee that the drug is effective against COVID-19. Meanwhile, a survey conducted by the UNTV News team show that Filipinos still prefer to get vaccinated against COVID-19 rather than taking the anti-parasitic drug. Aiko Miguel explains why.
The Food and Drug Administration is the regulatory body that approves Compassionate Special Permit or CSP when a certain drug is not available in the country but is registered in other countries. A CSP is needed when a drug will be used for another purpose. For example, is the anti-parasitic drug Ivermectin that some believe to be used as treatment for COVID-19. One of those who support the use of ivermectin is Anak Kalusugan Representative Mike Defensor and also plans to distribute it. Former Senator Juan Ponce Enrile also allegedly have taken ivermectin. FDA explains, although ivermectin has CSP for COVID-19, this is not a guarantee that it is effective against COVID-19. DG Domingo also adds CSP does not give a request or a permit to sell, distribute, or prescribe ivermectin.
Kasi katulad ng alam natin, talagang karamihan sa mga gamot for COVID-19 ay ongoing clinical trials pa, katulad po ng mga ibang mga nagamit na natin in the past, at walang access yung ating mga doktor at yung ating mga pasyente. It's not a marketing authorization, and in fact, walang garansya ang FDA dun sa quality at saka efficacy ng gamot, lalo na kung clinical trial drug pa.
FDA says because studies are ongoing to check its efficacy against COVID, the requester of the CSP is responsible if patients experience side effects on the drug.
Pag ang doktor ay nanghingi ng compassionate special permit, they take upon themselves complete responsibility over the product. In fact, kasama yon doon sa kanilang application na they take full responsibility for the product. At of course, ang ibig sabihin nun, i-discuss nila sa pasyente kung halimbawa wala na talaga silang ibang maibigay na gamot at palagay nila ito ay makakatulong, i-discuss nila sa pasyente ito at kailangan tanggapin ng pasyente na gagamitin sa kanya ang gamot na ito.
Before FDA approves it, they check the capability of a medical professional who will administer the drug, and if there is a facility where patients will be monitored. A CSP's validity lasts for a year. The applicant will also have to submit to the FDA all reports on the administration, effects, and the condition of patients after taking ivermectin for COVID-19. Meanwhile, based on an online survey conducted by UNTV News team, majority of the respondents still choose to be vaccinated against COVID-19 than to take ivermectin. With the 30 respondents, 15 of them still choose to be vaccinated against COVID-19. Choosing between Sinovac COVID-19 vaccine or ivermectin, 7 respondents chose Sinovac, while 3 out of 30 would like to use the anti-parasitic drug ivermectin. On the other hand, 5 respondents are still unsure whether to get vaccinated and what to choose. Meanwhile, DG Domingo stands firm that the approval of ivermectin's CSP to use for COVID-19 patients in a hospital. The FDA official adds, Iloilo Representative Janet Garin's accusation that it was approved because of a political pressure is not true.
Hindi naman namin siya bibigyan ng compassionate special permit kung hindi siya eligible, no? So like I said, yung eligibility natin dito are drugs that are being that are registered in another country and not available here for COVID-19. Or clinical trial drugs. Basta mayroong ongoing clinical trial na phase 3 sa ibang bansa, ibig sabihin dumaan naman ito sa pagsusulit at ethics boards ng mga universidad at saka ng mga research groups at saka ng mga technical experts at nakita nila na pwede itong pag-aralan at investigahin kontra sa sakit na COVID-19, then enough yon para po maging mag-qualify for CSP dito sa atin.
FDA reminds the public not to patronize Ivermectin against COVID-19 sold online, for this drug is not registered in the Philippines. Aiko Miguel, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
Metro Manila mayors are asking the government to extend the deadline of distribution of cash aid for residents placed under enhanced community quarantine. JP Nunez reports why.
The local government units or LGUs in Metro Manila have already started the distribution of cash assistance from the national government to its affected residents. But due to the huge number of population to receive the cash aid, some LGUs implemented limited capacity to distribution venues to avoid overcrowding. With this, Quezon City Mayor Joy Belmonte has asked the government to extend the deadline for the distribution of cash aid. The Quezon City government has 2.4 million target beneficiaries.
Ang binigay sa ating na deadline, 2 linggo, kaparehas lang ng ibang mga LGU. Samantalang ang laki ng populasyon ng lungsod Quezon ay hindi mahambing sa laki sa ibang lungsod. Sa atin, napakarami talaga ng mga mamamayan. At kung ginawa ko ngayong mathematics, kung 2,000 a day, kada barangay ang bibigyan mo, aabot ka pa rin ng 30 days, no?
But the city mayor assures that they will still try their best to comply with the deadline. According to DILG Officer in Charge Bernardo Flores Jr., they will study the proposal. Based on the mandate of the DILG, LGU should finish the cash aid distribution within 15 days upon receipt of the fund.
Yeah, may mga nagpauna na nagre-request na kung pwede ma-extend. Pero napakaaga pa rin naman para approve natin to. For example, sa Quezon City, nagsabi na si Mayor Joy na kung pwede extend natin. Naintindihan naman natin dahil napakarami.
LGUs who will fail to comply to the deadline will be issued a show cause order from the DILG. JP Nunez, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people. We give glory to God.
A top diplomat of the United States has expressed concern over the presence of Chinese vessels in the West Philippine Sea and vowed to continue a mutual defense pact with the Philippines. Rosalie Cos will tell us why.
U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken revealed about his recent phone conversation with Philippine Foreign Affairs Secretary Teodoro Locsin. The two top diplomats discussed about the presence of Chinese vessels in the exclusive economic zone of the Philippines. U.S. State Department spokesperson Ned Price said in a statement that both Blinken and Locsin expressed their shared concerns with the massing of Chinese vessels in the South China Sea and reiterated their calls on China to abide by the 2016 arbitration ruling issued pursuant to the law of the Sea Convention. The Philippines has filed several diplomatic protests against China because of the alarming continued presence of Chinese vessels in Julian Felipe Reef, which is just 175 nautical miles from the province of Palawan. China said several times that the Chinese boats were sheltering from rough seas. According to Secretary Locsin, his conversation with Blinken was vastly more than the issue on the disputed islands. Apart from this, the two also talked about the efforts to combat anti-Asian hate and violence in U.S. Some Filipino Americans have become the targets of increasing hate crimes in parts of the U.S. during the COVID-19 pandemic. Rosalie Cos, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
Department of Interior and Local Government or DILG Secretary Eduardo Año is returning to work next week after his 3-month leave of absence. DILG OIC and Undersecretary Bernardo Flores has said that Año will probably be on work from home status upon his return. Año is recovering from COVID-19 after contracting the disease twice last year.
Nagpa-extend lang siya until April 15. But he will be back after that April 15. Oh, yes, it's okay now.
The whole nation commemorates the 79th anniversary of the fall of Bataan today in honor of the hero Filipino soldiers. But why do we commemorate the Day of Valor or Araw ng Kagitingan? Dante Amento will tell us why.
On April 9, 1942, Luzon Force Bataan Commander Major General Edward King Jr. was forced to surrender 76,000 Filipinos, Chinese, and American soldiers to the Japanese. As captives, the soldiers were forced to endure the infamous 140 kilometers Bataan Death March to Camp O'Donnell in Capas Tarlac, which also called as the Fall of Bataan. Through Republic Act 3022, April 9 was proclaimed as Araw ng Kagitingan to pay tribute to the heroes of Bataan, Corregidor, and Besang. Some Filipinos, especially the old people, could still remember what transpired during those days.
Araw ng mga bayaning nakipaglaban sa ibang kalahi na gustong sakupin ang bansang Pilipinas.
However, younger generations have no idea when asked about it.
Celebrate po yung araw ni sino ba yun na? Sino ba? Sino ba yun na? Apolonaryo Mabini po.
Araw po ng Kagitingan.
Oo. Anong naalala mo pagka sinabing Araw ng Kagitingan?
Ano? Araw ng
And maybe we also ask ourselves why called it as the Day of Valor, where in fact some people say it was the time of defeat and many Filipino soldiers died and suffered in the hands of the Japanese. Professor and Filipino historian Xiao Chua says we should not look at it as defeat because it had inspired some other Filipinos to fight back to win the World War II.
May mga nagsasabi na bakit daw ipinagdiriwang yung pagkatalo ng Pilipino. Diba? Kasi pagkatalo yan yung Fall of Bataan. Diba? Nagkaroon ng Death March pa. So talagang kawawang-kawawa yung ating mga sundalo. Pero dahil sabi nga ng mga historiador, the Fall of Bataan paved the way for the for making the guerrilla resistance strong. Kasi na-inspire ang maraming Pilipino na sumali sa mga guerrilla movement.
Chua stresses in the 1940s, the Philippines was known in the world for its bravery and as the last country in Southeast Asia that fought the Japanese army.
So, kumbaga, yung mga guerrilla movement na pinalakas ng Fall of Bataan, yan ang magpapanalo sa ating digmaan pagdating ng 1945. So, kumbaga, we've lost the battle, but eventually, it will all help in winning the war.
He adds, even up to this time, we can still see the valor being shown by the Filipinos who fight during Second World War through our frontliners who continuously fight for us amid the pandemic.
Papalalahanan tayo na kahit napakahirap, kaya natin ang mga hamon ng ating
Ngayon po, marami po nagtutulong-tulong para po malabanan natin at manalo sa laban na ito sa pandemic. Tulad po namin bilang pulis, frontliner at mga kasama po namin sa ospital, mga doktor, mga nurse at mga barangay po na umahalili para po matugunan ang laban para sa pandemic.
As Filipinos, we should continuously tell the next generations how our forefathers fought the war, though outnumbered but no hesitations laid their lives to gain our freedom and identity. Dante Amento, UNTV, News and Rescue. We serve the people. We give glory to God.
Philip, the husband of Queen Elizabeth and a leading figure in the British royal family for almost 7 decades, has died at the age of 99. A statement posted on the royal family's website said, "It is with deep sorrow that Her Majesty the Queen announces the death of her beloved husband, His Royal Highness the Prince Philip, Duke of Edinburgh." The statement further reads, "His Royal Highness passed away peacefully this morning at Windsor Castle, and further announcements will be made in due course. The royal family will join the people around the world in mourning his loss." Prince Philip spent 65 years supporting the Queen, retiring from his public role in 2017 and staying largely out of the view since. In his active years, he helped set a new course for the monarchy under a young Queen, championing Britain itself as well as environmental causes, science, and technology. Meanwhile, New York will offer payments to undocumented immigrants affected by the pandemic in a sweeping move which could benefit nearly 300,000 people in the state. Paul Gatchalian explains why.
The state of New York dedicated a total of $2.1 billion to an excluded worker fund, which will make one-time payments to undocumented people who lost work during the coronavirus outbreak, which shut down New York City last spring. Undocumented workers are eligible to receive $15,600 if they can prove they are New York State residents who are ineligible for unemployment benefits due to their immigration status and lost income due to the pandemic. Other undocumented immigrants who are unable to meet the same level of verification will be eligible for $3,200. The amount of federal assistance payments many Americans have already received, but which undocumented immigrants have been unable to claim. The Fiscal Policy Institute, a New York-based policy group, estimated that 290,000 workers will benefit from the Excluded Worker Fund, including 213,000 in New York City alone. According to the Pew Research Center, about 725,000 undocumented immigrants live in New York City state. Paul Gatchalian, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
U.S. President Joe Biden has announced limited gun restrictions as pressure mounts following mass shootings. Marvi Delfin reports.
On the day before U.S. President Joe Biden delivered his remarks in the Rose Garden to outline the actions his administration is taking to curb the widespread gun violence in the country, the U.S. recorded its 7th mass shooting for 2021. The plans to announce the new measures were already in place before a former National Football League player killed 5 people in South Carolina. The latest incident brought America's death toll from mass shootings in 2021 to 38, a problem Biden perceived a blemish on the nation.
Gun violence in this country is an epidemic. Let me say it again. Gun violence in this country is an epidemic, and it's an international embarrassment.
Biden's 6 new executive orders did not require Congress approval, and he repeatedly defended that these did not infringe the Second Amendment right to bear arms. Biden has directed the Justice Department to issue a rule within 30 days to stop the proliferation of so-called ghost guns, which are kits that allow people to easily assemble untraceable weapons.
Anyone from a criminal to a terrorist can buy this kit in as little as 30 minutes, put together a weapon. You know, I want to see these kits treated as firearms under the Gun Control Act, which is going to require that the seller and manufacturers make the key parts with serial numbers and run background checks on the buyers when they walk in to buy that package.
The Justice Department will also issue, within 60 days, proposed rules that devices such as braces, which help stabilize and to make weapons more accurate, will be subject to the National Firearms Act and will require registration. Model red flag laws will also be published to limit gun sales to high-risk customers and allow courts and local law enforcement to remove guns from people deemed a risk to communities. For the first time since 2000, the Justice Department will report on arms trafficking. Biden has then nominated gun control advocate David Chipman to lead the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives, which did not have a permanent director in position since 2015. In addition, the White House will provide more than $1 billion in funding for evidence-based community intervention and prevention. Marvi Delfin, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God. Arkansas is the first state in the United States to prohibit transgender youth treatments. Abel Ciliano reports why.
On Tuesday, the U.S. state of Arkansas has prohibited certain transgender youth treatments, which has caused anger from right groups to big businesses. Asa Hutchinson, the current governor of Arkansas, vetoed the bill on Monday following the pleas of pediatricians, social workers, and parents who has claimed that the measure would harm the community, but was later overridden and ultimately passed by the state legislature, in which invited lawsuits from civil rights groups to stop the bill.
I was told this week that the nation is looking at Arkansas because I have on my desk another bill passed by the General Assembly that is a product of the cultural war in America. I don't shy away from the battle when it is necessary and defensible, but the most recent action of the General Assembly, while well-intended, is off course, and I must veto House Bill 1570. I have signed the veto of House Bill 1570 today.
This bill was made to stop people under the age of 18 from getting transgender procedures and prohibits doctors from prescribing puberty blockers, gender-conforming hormone treatments, or sending them to other providers to get treatments. If healthcare professionals ever provide these procedures or treatments, it will lead them to lose their medical license and open them up for lawsuits from their patients who may later regret their treatments or procedures. The override happened because of only a simple majority. In the end, passed easily in the state housing vote 72 to 25 in favor and the Senate 25 to 8. Due to this override, many medical and child welfare groups and also the American Academy of Pediatrics have opposed this ban. Abel Ciliano, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
Those are the reasons behind the news in other parts of the globe. I am Mariela Toza, live from Perth, Australia. Good evening.
The pandemic has brought many in the United States to depression, suicide, and loss of hope. But the week-long celebration of the Members Church of God International's legacy continues has brought back not only hope, but also the feeling of gratitude to God. Sunny Cause reports.
The week-long celebration of the legacy continues, wherein the members of the Church of God International conducted its global feeding program for the needy, has brought many in the United States who have been greatly affected by the pandemic to utter thanksgiving from their lips and show gratitude for the help that they have received. The pandemic has caused not only loss of lives and livelihood to millions of Americans, it also resulted to depression and suicide to many who have lost hope. Overall, based on the U.S. Center for Disease Control and Prevention or CDC survey, 40.9% of the population had at least one adverse mental or behavioral health condition, including symptoms of anxiety disorder or depressive disorder, and 30.9% had symptoms of a trauma and stressor-related disorder related to the pandemic. With more than 6,000 food packs distributed to more than 120 locations nationwide on its fourth day alone, including to street dwellers, homeless shelters, senior homes, and others, the recipients of the feeding program in the U.S. expressed gladness, warmth, and thanksgiving to God. This from those who had once lost hope because of their daily predicament in this pandemic.
These people always come down and help people in Baltimore. Thank God, bless people. They help us very much and we appreciate it. And thank God and pray for all of them.
Sa NCGI, this is a good opportunity for us today. I'm so lucky today, this is a good gift from God. Thank you for everything. God bless.
These guys are here, brought us meals for our patients, which we do appreciate very much. This is our first time to have something like this, And I am so thankful and grateful to them.
And together with all of the grateful recipients, the volunteers from different parts of the country have nothing to say but Sonicos, UNTV News and Rescue, USA. We serve the people. We give glory to God.
Meanwhile, 50 residents mostly affected by the pandemic were chosen to receive free groceries in Camarin, Caloocan City. JP Nunez has this story.
Ernesto Ascobendas, a senior citizen, sleeps in an abandoned establishment in Bagong Silang, Caloocan City. His leg was amputated due to his diabetes and he can only walk using crutches. According to Ascobendas, he experienced begging for food to his neighbors when the lockdown was implemented. None of his 5 children can even help him because they too struggle to support their families. He was very thankful to be one of the beneficiaries of the Members Church of God International for their free store activity.
Nangingi lang po ako ng makain ko eh. Nangingi po ako sa mga bahay-bahay. Maraming salamat sa Diyos po. At nabigyan po ako ng makakain ko po.
The MCGI volunteers even escorted Ernesto to his shelter. Meanwhile, Rosendo Cobrado Jr., a construction worker who also lost his job due to the lockdown, rushed to the free store after he receives information of the activity.
Naku, napakalaking tulong sa amin ito. Lalo na ngayon, kagaya sa akin, trabaho construction, na-stop kami, na-lockdown kami, wala kami pasok ngayon. Buti nga, nagbigay kayo ng ganito. Malaking tulong sa akin to.
He was very thankful to the free store activity as he has no money to buy such. But with the free store, he was able to have his needs. A total of 50 recipients were able to get their free groceries.
Papasalamat na lang po ako sa MCGI. Sana po meron pa po kayo matulungan na mga tao.
Sana po magpapatuloy pa ng ganito na may libreng at nakakatulong.
Meanwhile, the MCGI volunteers assures that they will continue the good works as the legacy continues. JP Nunez, UNTV, News and Rescue. We serve the people. We give glory to God.
70 indigent students of Laong-Laan Elementary School in Sampaloc, Manila also avail of free grocery items from the MCGI Free Store. According to the school principal, MCGI's charitable works in their school became their inspiration in also doing good to others. Janice Inhente reports.
Since the ECQ implementation in NCR Plus bubble, Bonbon Peralta's husband has not been able to work. Now, selling drugs is their bread and butter.
Ngayon lockdown, mahirap talaga maghanap buhay. Titinda lang kami ng basahan, minsan bumibinta lang kami ng lockdown, bibinta lang kami 200, 300, tama lang.
And when Bonbon witnessed that her son, a student of Laong-Laan Elementary School in Sampaloc, Manila, was also one of the beneficiaries of the MCGI Free Store, she was delighted. The mother of 6 was able to avail of not just food, but also what her children need.
Kumuha ko vitamins nila. Dahil para panglaban sa magpapasalamat ako dito sa vitamins. Dahil nagkaroon ng vitamins yung mga bata. Ito para sa pang-araw-araw namin, pang nila. Ito kailangan tong gatas nila. First time nakakuha ko na kami nagpili ng gusto namin ng pagkain.
70 students of Laong-Laan Elementary School became beneficiaries of the MCGI Free Store.
Masaya po kasi malaking tulong po ito sa akin. Lalo na po sa akin, na 4 ang anak ko. Malaking bagay po ito. Sobrang saya ko po. At salamat din po sa Panginoon dahil maraming taong binibigyan ng ni God blessing para ipamahagi din sa amin.
Wala po kasi naka-isip pa po eh. Malaki lang bagay na sa pamilya ko po ito. Maraming salamat po sa Panginoon.
Malaking tulong po ma'am kasi po lahat po kami wala pang mga trabaho. Salamat po sa Diyos at may binigay pong malaking tulong po sa amin.
According to school principal Fernando Magalang, MCGI's free medical checkup previously has inspired them to also help others. When the Taal volcano erupted, with thousands of people affected, the Laong-Laan Elementary School faculty did not hesitate to conduct a donation drive for the Taal victims and partnered with UNTV to deliver their help.
Malaking bagay po na kami po ay napagbigyan muli dahil noong una, isa kami sa naging na-sponsoran ng ating dating daan. Talaga nakikita naman natin na kami rin po naman kapag kailangan din at tulad ng pagbibigay, pagbigay ng ayuda doon sa ating mga nasalanta nung nagkaroon ng pagputok yung Bulkan Taal. Sabi, po natin, tulungan po natin at ang Laong-Laan naman po ay sumusuporta rin kung ano po yung hadikain ng ating dating daan.
Mr. Magalang added, they will continue to participate in MCGI and UNTV activities that aim to serve our fellow men. Janice Enhente, UNTV, News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
Free grocery items were also granted for about 70 indigent residents at CAA Las Piñas City as part of the Members Church of God International's public service activities. Marvin Calas reports.
Maria Luisa Trimidal was in tears knowing that her family will not worry about their meals for a couple days more. This is due to them being one of the 70 indigent recipients of the Members Church of God International's free store at the CAA Las Piñas City.
Kasi po, akala po namin hindi na sila mabibiyaan. Laking tulong po talaga po sa amin po. Kasi sapat na po ito. Pagkain na po na binigay po sa kanila. Wala po kasi kung pambiling gamot Dahil tumawag lang po ako sa kapatid ko na kung may pera siya, may padala na lang. Pambili po ng gamot ng tatay at nanay ko.
Luisa originally has her job in Cavite, but due to both her parents having illness, she was forced to return home to care for them. Their expenses and needs were now shouldered all by her sibling.
Mahirap po kasi po, nangungupahan po kami. Ngayon po tipo may ganito pong biyaya ng Diyos na binigay sa kanila na konting tulong. Mahirap po kasi inasahan po namin yung kapatid ko po. Nagtatrabaho mag-isa lang po.
Meanwhile, Nelia Otani happily shopped for her family's immediate needs at MCGI Free Store, such as foods and hygiene products. Moreover, she says that she cares more for her grandchildren's needs, which made her even more delighted being a beneficiary of the free store.
Sabi niya, punta kayo doon, subukan niyo kung malaking tulong din. Nakita ko nga dito na may tulong nga na kayong binibigay. Uno ko po yung mga kakainin ng apo ko para kahit di po kami kumain ng mister ko, sa mga apo ko na lang po.
After availing free grocery items, the recipients were also given free meals before leaving to help aid their hunger.
Napakasayang pakiramdam. Tayo ay makatulong, alam naman po natin tayo sumusunod unang-una sa utos ng ating Panginoon Diyos at nakakapaglingkod po tayo sa ating mga kapwa sa pamamagitan po ng mga ganitong bagay na pagkakasunduan na iaaral sa atin ng ating Kuya Daniel Rason.
Marvin Calas, UNTV, News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
And those are the reasons behind the news, April 9, 2021. I am Harleen Delgado.
Reasons we deliver to you as they unfold. I'm Angelo Castro III.
Because we need to know, we will always ask why. I am William Theo. We serve the people. We give glory to God.